There you go. Okay, I'm just waiting for Steve Weil because he's sprinting across the street. Good morning, Edmonton. Good morning, Shelter. There you go. Well, the good news is I have no announcements of any kind this morning, really. So, but I would like to remind everybody that coldest night of the year is coming up in February, and we still need a lot of people to go out there and get very excited about that in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So if you haven't got excited about it yet, go do it in all our cities: Red Deer, Edmonton, Calgary, coldest night of the year. The only other thing I want to say before I introduce the amazing Dean is that next week's speaker is David Punamil. I get it right? Punamil. I practiced that for 15 minutes, man. It was, and David has got this amazing testimony, and I'm not sure we can share next week, but because I want to put him in that box, but we're really happy to have him. And then in a couple of weeks, we got Todd Swisher from Eastside City Church, which he's the lead pastor there. And then on February 6th, Margaret, our amazing HR director, is going to come up and do a bit of a devotion and talk to us about Best Christian Workplace and how that all went this year, and what better sort of place to talk about that in here. And so it's great to get to have Dean come and speak to us today from Edmonton. He always does not just a great job, he's just a great guy. So thank you, Dean. You're up.
Wow. Thank you, Bill. Good to see a Shelter. Good to see a microphone in 102 until they pan over to the crowd. I'm happy to do this. I've done this since Easter, so it's a good time. Okay, so I want to talk briefly about holistic innovation, one of our values here. And the Bible story I want to use to do that is a famous Bible story of David and Goliath. So for just a quick refresher, David, young guy, shepherd, probably a teenager. He is, supposedly kind of a handsome dude. He's the youngest of a bunch of brothers. He's left on the farm or the ranch to do things while the brothers are sent off to war. His 3 older brothers are at war. They're fighting the Philistines. Philistines have a giant named Goliath. And for 40 days, this Goliath guy comes out and challenges one of the Israelites to a one-on-one combat. And the theory was back then, if we just battle each other one-on-one, whoever wins the war for everybody, and two armies don't get wiped out. And so the problem is Goliath is about 6'9", and back in those days, the average height would have been much less than that. And so everyone is scared of Goliath. He's large, he's intimidating, and nobody wants to touch the guy. David shows up mostly just to give food to his brothers and to give food to the army captain. And he hears what's going on. He's quite disturbed. He's like, why isn't anybody taking this guy on? And they said, well, we're all scared of him. And then he says something along the lines of, what's in it for me? And they say, well, whoever defeats the Goliath gets some cash, and he gets to marry the king's daughter. And he goes, sounds good. And he's actually quite appalled, not just on a corporate level of the fight, but he's really appalled on a spiritual level. Because in his mind, if you trust in the Almighty God, God will take care of this. And so David goes and he takes on Goliath, despite the fact that he's little, he's not a trained soldier, this isn't supposed to be his deal. And they actually try to outfit David in military equipment before he fights Goliath. And David refuses that, saying, I don't want any of that. And he goes to Goliath with just himself and a slingshot. And he hits Goliath dead between the eyes. Goliath falls over. David then takes Goliath's sword, kills him, whacks off his head in true, Game of Thrones style. Maybe that's where Game of Thrones came out of. And so it's kind of, it's one of those stories that we teach in Sunday school all the time. I don't know why. It's quite violent. But, it's a story we do. I think this relates to our value of holistic innovation. I think it's always time to innovate. But if we value this, we must accept that innovation should be part of our norm around here. When we read the story of David and Goliath, we typically read it as a story of courage or a story of faith. David had the courage to take on Goliath. David had faith in God, and therefore he was able to do that. I think we can also see this story as a story of innovation. If we're going to defeat giants, we must innovate. No giant is ever defeated with a lack of innovation. Our giant is huge at the mustard seed. To end poverty and homelessness requires more than money. It requires more than skill. It requires more than passion. If these things were the only thing that was required to defeat poverty and homelessness, they would already be defeated. There has been more than enough money, more than enough passion, and more than enough skill spent on conquering homelessness and poverty throughout the decades. But yet we still live with the giant. And we will continue to live with the giant until we come up with the innovation required to defeat homelessness and poverty. So how does David take out the giant, and what can we learn from it? The first thing is David seized opportunity. Innovation and opportunity go hand in hand. David saw an opportunity to defeat his country's enemy. And when the Israel army saw a massive problem, David saw an opportunity to solve the problem forever. We need to see the opportunities around us. And when we do and we seize them, we begin to innovate. In the year 2000, the Blockbuster CEO passed on buying Netflix for $50 million. That's only 19 years ago. So think about that for a moment. There's no Blockbusters left anymore. One of our favorite things on a Friday night when our kids were really little was taking our kids to Blockbuster. And we go to Blockbuster, we rent a couple movies for them, we rent one movie for ourselves, and then we walk to the Safeway right next door, we get snacks, then we go home and, we pray that they would fall asleep fast so we could watch something we really wanted to watch. But that was our nightly activity. And it seemed like it was everybody's nightly activity. Some of you do not know the pain of going to the video store to rent what you wanted to rent and to find that it was already out. You're just not familiar with that. For us, that was a lot of the nights. So the Blockbuster CEO gets this invitation to buy Netflix for $50 million, and he goes, there's no way that streaming is going to take off. He says, in his mind, and these are exact words, it was a small niche business. Blockbuster at the time was worth $4.8 billion. So they had $50 million in the bank. But they passed on it. A mere 10 years later, Blockbuster goes bankrupt. Netflix had completely overtaken its market. Today, Netflix is worth $48 billion, and Blockbuster is worth less than the shirt that you're currently wearing. When we fail to seize opportunities, we fail to see the innovation probabilities around us. We can never get comfortable and confident that we are the best at what we do, that we are doing things the right way, that we are going to end homelessness and poverty by doing the things the way that we're currently doing them. And the reason why we can't get confident is because the giant still stands. And as long as that giant still stands, we must see opportunity, not for the sake of growth, but as a possibility to innovate, to take down the giant. The second thing that we can learn from David is that David ignored traditional rules of combat in order to take down the giant. Now, this is where David really innovates. If David fights a traditional duel, he's dead. He's small, he's young, he's untrained in traditional combat. The armor that was supposed to protect him would have made him very slow, if not completely immobile. He'd have been like a statue for Goliath to take down. Giants are never ever defeated by doing things the way they've always been done. Otherwise, they would already be defeated. Malcolm Gladwell states this: there is a set of advantages that have to do with material resources, and there's a set that have to do with the absence of material resources. The reason the underdog wins often is that they see the fact that their lack can sometimes be every bit as powerful as those that have plenty. Our job here at the Mustard Seed is to see what we have and use that to our advantage. A number of years ago, a company started that today tens if not hundreds of millions of people across the world use. They walked into communities throughout the world, and every place they went into, they were initially illegal. In fact, most cities, not most, but a large percentage of cities that they still exist in the world today, they're actually illegal. They're not allowed to be there. Yet they remain in operation, and customers go and use them all the time, including me, or at least I use it frequently. My daughters use it all the time. Now, most of you are thinking I'm talking about marijuana. I'm not. Daughters better not be using that all the time. But like there's this company that's out there, and not only are they out there, and have they broken all the rules to be out there, they've actually taken down a major industry, or taking down a major industry each and every day by their very existence. The company is Uber. And the company that it's taking down is the traditional taxi cab. There's an industry that is suffering just by their presence. And I mean, if Uber would have said, we just want to be a taxi cab company, or we just want to be a traditional limo service or car service company, do you think they're as big as they are? Instead, they decide to create a company that is a ride-sharing company, where you pay ahead of time, where you can look on an app and track when your driver is going to show up, where you get into the car and it's clean, and they have a bottle of water for you. And they say to you, what music would you like to listen to? And then when you tell them, they put that on. It's crazy stuff. And in the result of this is that taxi cab companies are now wondering, how in the world are they going to compete? The real point is Uber doesn't survive, much less thrive, if it follows and if it plays by traditional rules. You don't take down giants through conformity. You take down giants through innovation and through doing things differently. The third thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that David knew his strengths. That slingshot was something else. David had already killed a bear, he had already killed a lion, he knew he was anointed by God, he had faith and he had belief. He knew God was with him and that God was with the Israelites, yet he also knew how to use a slingshot. He was an expert at this. He was a sniper. He takes 5 stones, he only needs 1. He goes and picks those stones specifically because he knows exactly what he needs to use. Now consider for a moment that he is the youngest son of a bunch of brothers. He has nothing to do most of the time other than look after sheep. So he was well practiced at using that slingshot. I mean, that would have been his entertainment. That's how he would have, occupied himself. So therefore, he had every confidence in the world using it. Yes, God was in it, but he knew exactly what he was doing. And his use of a slingshot wasn't a fluke. His use in it came, and his confidence came because he had the skill, he had the talent, and he had the practice to be confident. He chose his weapon because he knew exactly how to use that weapon. Conversely, we at the Mustard Seed need to understand what our slingshot is. What are we so good at? What can we do that nobody else can do? What are we the best at? I look at companies around the world today, and you begin to understand that why specifically some tech companies have taken off. Do you know that if you own a Tesla, and if you work for the Mustard Seed, you do not own a Tesla. But if you did own a Tesla, you would know that in order to get a tune-up on your car, the way that would happen is it would come through wireless transmission. Your car would be literally sitting in the garage at night, and a wireless transmission will come into your vehicle, and it will download instructions and upgrades to the operating system. Why is Tesla taking off when all other kind of electrical cars and all that stuff haven't done well? It's because their technology is more advanced. It's because they're selling you a luxury car, but they're not just selling you a luxury car, they're selling you a car that makes you feel environmentally responsible. And then they've dumped technology into this that nobody else has. It's very cool. Why is Amazon successful? It's successful because of my wife. And also, it's successful if you read about it, not because of the product that they bring to your door, because of their ability to bring that product to your door. They are successful because they literally have the best infrastructure in the world. They are the most efficient. The next time someone from Amazon drops something off at your door, look to see whose truck it is. Is it a UPS truck? Is it a Purolator truck? Because if it isn't, it will be. Because they're buying them all. Because as UPS and Purolator and FedEx and the rest of them start to suffer because of Amazon's power, they're selling their stuff to Amazon, who desperately needs it. Amazon's infrastructure is so good that they now rent it and lease it out to other companies that want to have online delivery service. That's how good it is. That's part of how they fund Amazon. When you look at Amazon, you say, the thing that makes them awesome is that they can get me a product to the door. And my response is, no, the thing that makes them awesome is that they have the infrastructure to do it. The first time a parcel is dropped into your backyard through a drone, it will be because of Amazon dropping it. I look at these things and I say, if Tesla has the technology, if Amazon has the infrastructure, and David, by the way, had a slingshot, what is it that the Mustard Seed has? What is it your department has? What is it that you have? Because if you're going to take down the giant, you need to know what it is you have. Tesla is looking at taking down the big four. The big three. Amazon has already taken down, for the most part, Walmart and Target and the rest of them. David took down Goliath. Can the Mustard Seed take down homelessness? Can we take down poverty? Can we defeat the giant? I think we can. Giants fall because we utilize a strength that is so awesome, that is so unique, that we can make a difference. What do we have? What does your team have? What do you have that can bring down the giant? So what does this mean for you, and what does this mean for the Mustard Seed? The first thing is, we know how people have tried to end poverty and homelessness. We know the effect that it has had is truthfully just not been good enough. If it was good enough, we wouldn't need to be here today. But here at the Seed, you get to innovate. You get to look at the giant and decide if you're going to innovate and be creative enough to take him down. You get to ask and are responsible and obligated to ask, how am my team, our team, how are we going to do this? We know that the way we've always done it isn't good enough. So how are we going to do it? And like David, you get to innovate through minimalism. Now, we don't like to hear that. Most of us want to, innovate through plenty. But if you look at all the great innovators in the world, they started with small. And through small, they created something awesome. We get to innovate through minimalism. If more solved the problem would be solved. If the giant was taken down with more, the giant would be gone. The giant is taken down with less. And I'm encouraging you, especially as we enter into budget seasons and as we enter into sometimes when you think about this stuff, not to say to yourself, if I only had more, but instead say to yourself, has God given me a slingshot? And if he has, why can't I innovate? And I would argue for each of us he has. So innovate, not asking what more can you have, but instead, has God given me enough to do what I need to do? So start the conversation, start the brainstorm. Ask, what is the opportunity before us? What traditional rules should we break free from? What is our strength? Ask yourself, is what we're doing helping to end poverty and homelessness? And how do you know for sure that it is or isn't? And if you don't know for sure, how are you going to know? What is it that you're going to change, even in your evaluation of things? As we come to a place of the new year, I challenge you to think about the giant that is out there and ask, will the giant still stand, or will the mustard seed take the giant down? Most people spend their life questioning whether they made a difference in this world. Because you work at the mustard seed, you will never, ever have to wonder this about yourself. Let's take down the giant in 2019. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for this morning. Thank you for each person that you have brought here. You have brought more than enough resources to the mustard seed to take down the giant. Together we can end homelessness and poverty. The job is big, and we recognize that there are plenty out there that have been trying this for years and haven't figured it out. We want to figure it out. And through your strength and through the people that you have brought here, we will. And so may we see the opportunities before us. May we look at things in different ways. May we recognize all that you have already given us. And through innovation and creativity, may we take down the giant. Amen.
Please connect and try again.
Well, that's awkward. I think we're done. Unless Bill's coming back up. We're done. Have a good day. Be free.